Welcome to the first edition of the Tines Lookback, our quarterly product recap video. My name is Hannah. I'm a product marketer on the team here at Tines. Today, we'll cover all the cool features our Tines team has produced in the last 3 months and provide some helpful ways to make the most of them as a Tines builder. For all of the latest product updates, be sure to keep an eye on our What's New page. We're constantly adding new features there all the time. In today's video, I'll be sitting down with various folks from our engineering and design teams, all people who have had a direct hand in the features you're about to see. But first, let's take a look at Workbench.
So this past September, the Tines team released Workbench. And if you haven't had a chance to explore this new product yet, we're going to walk through it right now. So Workbench is a Tines-powered AI chat interface that allows you to take action and access your proprietary systems in real time, both privately and securely. So what does that mean? We've combined the concept of copilots and AI chats that folks are familiar with the full power of Tines. You get to bring your data into a chat to work with your tools. And with Workbench, you can perform tasks like creating a ticket in Jira, getting detections in CrowdStrike, locking down devices in Jamf, and even sending messages in Slack. Now, I'm not a security analyst or an IT admin, but the beauty of Workbench is that there's no limit to who can use it as long as you're a Tines builder. So let's go into Workbench here. And using templates and stories, Workbench can tell me a lot about my own day-to-day responsibilities, even when things are happening outside of Tines. So let's reach out to Workbench and see what it can tell me about my day tomorrow, which happens to be Halloween. So hi, what is on my calendar for Halloween? And that's going to run, and it's going to reach out to my Google Calendar and list all the events that I have for tomorrow. So it's pulling in the events, it's giving a brief summary of each one, and it says it looks like I have a mix of work-related tasks and a fun Halloween celebration to look forward to. So if you think about a general AI chatbot, they can't access this type of data that only lives in my calendar like Workbench can. Now, we created a ton of helpful resources on Workbench since we launched that I encourage everyone to check out. If you haven't done so already, our library has a dedicated section for Workbench that is just for stories that you can use to get started with the tool. We also have our docs has been updated with a ton of awesome information on Workbench, in addition to some informational articles within Tines Explained. So highly encourage everyone to check it out if you haven't done it already. It's pretty fun, it's really useful, and we think you're gonna really like it.
All right, we are here with Haley Majorum, who's one of our product designers. Today, she's gonna take us through some updates to the overall look and feel of the UI, along with some improvements to accessibility in the way that you build and move around in Tines. So Haley, I'll pass it off to you.
Thanks, Anna. So yeah, I just wanted to go through a couple of changes to the overall, I guess, look and feel and quality of life within Tines. We recently shipped a new design for anything list or table related. So you can see across stories and other pages like records, we have this nice kind of linear table view for records and stories and things like that. With these improvements in the tables also comes a new kind of intuitive way of filtering and sorting tables. So all of our filtering and sorting now is always in the left-hand corner. So I can filter by favorites, or I can filter by all stories, and the same for tags. So if you want to get really down into filtering by specific tags, you can do that very easily in this top left-hand section. We've also shipped a new redesign for our folders. So before, folders used to take up a lot of space and a lot of real estate on this page, and it used to push stories way down the page. So we have these kind of nice compact folders that sit on top of the stories list. Yeah, they're pretty handy in terms of being able to, right click them, open them in a new tab, copy a link to a folder, that kind of thing. The same for the rows in the table itself. So stories now have their own rows, so you're able to see more information about a story at a glance with these new columns. And if I right click any story on the table, I'm presented with this new kind of context menu, which is super handy for opening stories in new tabs so that you don't lose your place in where you are. You can also copy links to stories as well with this right click without having to go into the story itself. So super handy, really nice kind of quality of life improvements there. The next thing I'd like to talk about is switching teams. So switching teams has kind of always been a little bit of a laborious process in Tines, especially for those with a lot of teams in their plan. How it can be done still, and how it was the only way to do it before was with this top left-hand switcher menu. So we have a switch team section, and this menu only shows a couple of teams. And for those people that have a lot of teams, you'd have to go into this more menu and be presented with another list. So kind of switching between teams was a bit of a complicated process. So with our Command K modal, which is triggered by the Command key or the Control key if you're on Windows, Command plus K will open this this nice kind of context menu. So if I want to quickly jump between a team, all I have to do is navigate down to the recent team section, or even easier, I can search for the team I'm looking for and hit the enter key, and I'm immediately brought back to that team, and I'm able to switch to other teams using this mechanism as well. So again, really handy. You can switch teams without needing to lift your fingers off of your mouse, which is always a nice thing for our power users as well. Touching on the kind of switcher menu that we have, again, there was a bit of a redesign done recently to improve the hierarchy of this and make it make more sense to a lot of our users. So basically all of the pages that belong to a specific team are grouped within this section so that you're always kind of familiar with what is relevant to each team. So for example, I'm on the design team right now, and all of these pages, credentials, collections, resources, etc., are all related to this team and this team only. Whereas before we had kind of an amalgamation of lots of different pages where some of them were related to the tenant and not the team. So now there's this kind of nice separation between team and tenant, which makes it super easy to know where you are and know what belongs to you. So the last thing I wanted to go through was something related to the storyboard. This is probably the nicest feature, so saving the best to last. I think on the surface this seems like a small feature, but the power it has is actually pretty impactful. Traditionally on the storyboard, we have our side panel, which is what we use to drag actions onto the storyboard, like so. But a lot of people like to work in a larger workspace, so having this side panel collapsed. And we wanted to kind of introduce a way where people can stay contextual to the storyboard without needing to disrupt their workflow by going to the side panel, looking for an action, and then dragging it on that way. With this kind of nice new interaction that we've implemented with our right click action, we can actually insert an action at our cursor point on the storyboard, which is really nice. So I can insert, for example, a HTTP request here, and right beside it, I can insert an AI action without having to navigate to any menus, without having to move my mouse from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. This is really nice, especially for building stories quickly, keeping contextual to where you are. With this menu as well also comes a couple of like quality of life improvements as well. We have the ability to undo and redo actions. We can paste things in place, which is a nice feature. For example, if I wanted to copy this, I can go to another place on the storyboard and hit paste, and it will paste exactly where I want it to paste, which is really nice. Also, we have our kind of viewport tools within this menu as well. So the ability to zoom in and zoom out, or zoom to fit. So yeah, really nice kind of quality of life improvement. It's been requested a lot and we've finally implemented it. So hoping that it's going to be a game changer for our story builders.
That's awesome. Thank you, Haley. I think with everything that you've gone through, it really shows how we can help builders just be more organized in Tines. Everything is really at their fingertips, especially with the Command K and the easy actions there. But no, I love this. I think this is awesome for both power builders, as you mentioned, but also new users in Tines as well. We've definitely been putting in the work to make this as user-friendly as possible.
For sure.
Well, Haley, thank you so much for walking us through these updates. And I hope everyone is able to check them out and enjoy them.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.
Great. So we are here with Seamus Dillon, who is one of our engineering managers. His team works on our cases, records, and dashboard capabilities. They've been extremely busy this past quarter, and Seamus has kindly pulled together a list of some of those new features that we want you guys to hear. So Seamus, I will hand it over to you. What do you have for us?
Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, I'm really excited to share some of the things that our team's been working on for the last quarter. I guess the first thing that people probably notice when they jump in and see cases nowadays is that the case list page has been revamped. Before, it used to be a block list with a lot of card information, and now it's kind of been transformed into more of a table-like structure, which lets people have a lot more control over what they want to see or don't want to see within the cases list page. So if you want to see IDs, SLAs, who opened, who resolved, everything pretty much is controllable now. So you have full control over what you see. And in future, we're looking to surface more information from within the case onto this case list page to just surface that higher level information. Also on this page, you'll probably notice that we've always had these list of views, but we've recently added the ability to update the views. So if you want to change a view or save a view, previously we had to create a new one, but now you have the ability to actually update an already existing view. And also on this page, we have also added a new way to visualize cases. So we've added the ability to see cases as a Kanban board. So for those of us who like to see a higher level or more visual flow of work as it progresses, you can see it here on this page. And then as cases move between these different states, they will update, and you'll see them on the progress pages, etc. as well. Going back to our list page, we've also added some extra functionality on here. So in our actions, you will now see that you can delete cases. So case admins will be able to remove cases if there are any reason you need to remove incorrectly created cases or anything that was not correctly signed. You also can now bulk delete cases. So we've also updated the bulk delete actions. There's a few more actions available, and yeah, bulk delete cases is now an option as well. Then within a case itself, we've actually made some pretty big changes to the UI within a case. I guess the first, probably most visible one, is that the commenting has changed. It's now a more flat comment system than it was at the speech bubbles before. We've also added the ability to toggle the comment timeline. So pretty much everything is now, you can toggle it on or off if you want to see more information or less information within the timeline. And we also have a default set of filters for the comments. We've also, due to popular feedback demands, increased the space you have for your description. So you can choose to hide the timeline and the actions, and you can toggle them back on as is so desired. And then within that toggleable thing stuff as well, you probably noticed that the case description goes full width for those who like to have smaller screens or bigger monitors or like more control over that white space. You have the ability to toggle on full width description as well.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because it really allows people to like focus in on what's most important that's going on with the case instead of like maybe being distracted by the comments on the side. So getting like that narrowed in focus, I think is huge that we've done.
Yeah, indeed. Another thing that we've worked on and added recently, and it's a pretty big change for us, was the introduction of cases fields. Case fields basically let you capture important information from a case that you want to cross-reference or correlate across all other cases, and lets you capture them in a structured way as opposed to metadata, which is very untyped and unstructured. So an example of this maybe is you have an alert, you want to capture the severity of the alert, so you can capture it in here, and users can fill in this as they go along inside the case. It's going to also be filled in as the case is created from the storyboard. And in this case, you'll see that a lot of the information was already filled in when the case was created. And then the usage of this fields is basically when we go to the search page, we are able to search by those fields. So maybe we can just search by the alert type and see if there was any other ransomware alerts that come in. And we can see in this contrived scenario that there has been a previous ransomware alert that come in the past. And then that might help us figure out like if there's any cross information that is important to us, like if that IP address is also the same, or if the operating system is also the same, or anything that could help us figure out if there's any sort of larger threat to our systems happening at the same time. And then lastly, probably the last big changes that we made in the last quarter was around dashboards, where we've added a few new flows to dashboards and new ways of reporting information. So previously, when you had cases, you were able to see them as either this list or a number. Now we've let you add the ability to kind of see them in different ways, see them as pie charts. Or if you choose, you can also maybe see them as bar charts. We also have some more styling around this. So you'll see that there's a style of colorful, or if maybe you're a big fan of green, you could choose to maybe see all the data represented in different shades of green.
And with the colors, so one, like obviously they look really nice. Two, like if you're taking this dashboard and you're sharing it with leadership, like you can have it, kind of go with your company brand. But also, if you had like multiple charts on this in this view, that also kind of helps say like, okay, all the ones that are in green, like even though there's a title, like just visually you can see like these go with this topic, red goes with another topic, blue goes with another topic. So it's another way of like how the colors can really help you visualize and understand what exactly is going on in the dashboard.
Correct. Yeah, it's a really useful tool to help you categorize that level of information. And another aspect of this as well is that we try and respect within as much as possible the colors and the elements within a color. So if you had another chart that was trying to show David, Connor, and Joan, or cases by assignee, and it was in gold, or you use green elsewhere, we try and make sure that David ends up being the darker shade of green, and Joan ends up being the lighter shade of green, so that visually, when you look at it at a very quick glance, you can see that actually all those colors match across the whole chart page. And that's it. That's it for the team for the last quarter.
That's awesome. I think, I think the general theme that I was seeing in all of this is really helping users customize how cases work for them. Like when it comes to that list view and having like a saved view for like someone on a team to specifically say, okay, these are all the things that I'm focused on right now. So here's all the cases I need to look at. And then also like allowing you to focus in on what's important, especially with those UI improvements of toggling away the sidebar, like making the description really big. I know you did cover this, but a while ago we created like the table of contents in the case description where you can jump to those pieces, especially as those descriptions get really long. So I think this is awesome. I think, like I said at the beginning, I know the team's been really, really busy with what you guys have been working on, but everything you've done has been really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and we're always eager for feedback. Let us know if there's anything else you want done.
Definitely. All right. Thank you, Seamus.
Thank you.
So we are here with Shayan Mukherjee, one of the Tines software engineers, and he's going to talk a little bit about the AWS CLI command we recently added as a runtime option for run script in the cloud. So Shayan, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Hannah. So yeah, we recently released AWS CLI as a run script option, and to talk a little bit about why or how it came to be. So before AWS CLI runtime option, our customers would interact with AWS APIs and services through our HTTP request action, which means that if you want to list your S3 buckets or do something more involved with an AWS service, you would have to go to the service-specific API documentation and then understand how the API works, authentication, pagination, and other intricate details to the APIs itself. And if you're coming from a background where you're used to using AWS CLI day to day, you may not be familiar with how the AWS API, HTTP API works. So you sort of have to like learn this new thing in order to do what you were doing earlier, but now at Tines. So that's basically how AWS CLI came to be. We were feeling this pain ourselves because we use Tines to interact with AWS quite a lot. We use Tines to deploy Tines. We run on AWS. We do a bunch of auditing things with AWS. So we decided that we would build this feature on RunScript as our foundation. So AWS CLI is built on top of our existing RunScript foundation, and we prototyped it internally. Things are looking good. Make sure all of the existing features like bringing your own AWS credential, a Zoom role, and other Tines features work just the same way as before. And after some testing, we rolled it out. So to give you a quick look into how this works within Tines, here's a very small and quick example of listing S3 buckets. If you're familiar with AWS CLI, you would know that all you have to do is call AWS S3 LS to list all the buckets. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm using an AWS CLI template from our template library, and I have connected a Tines AWS credential against our engineering test account. And just like that, I can list all the S3 buckets from that account and get it into a JSON output inside this Tines action. To give you a more realistic example, here's how we are using AWS CLI in our production environments. So here what you're seeing is a story that receives incoming events based on certain production events. And when we receive those events, we may decide to auto upgrade our AWS Aurora RDS instances. So after some checks in place, all we do is we have the AWS CLI command where we call the AWS RDS describe DB clusters for the respective region, and with some helper query lookups, we find the DB clusters, we iterate over them, we get more information for the identified database instance, and eventually we go ahead and upgrade the reader instance. These sort of things would have required us a little bit more time in learning how these specific APIs work for AWS. It would have required us to learn about those APIs, but because we work with AWS CLI quite often in my team, it was really easy to set up this story and automate this entire journey using Tines and the AWS CLI action option.
That's awesome. Shayan, so really thanks to this command that we have available, you could really, as long as you know what you want to do, you could really do, you could interact with any type of AWS service through Tines.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Every AWS CLI command that you're familiar with, or if you see it on a blog post, you just bring it to Tines and it will work right out of the box.
Cool. And I'm sure there's a ton of information about AWS and AWS CLI out there on the web, but in terms of Tines, do we have anything available for our customers to check out?
That's right, we do. And for that, we have the run script page on our documentation site. So it describes how you can use AWS CLI. If you can also use AWS Python SDK, but because AWS CLI is so easy to use, that's usually has become our go-to option. And we have set up instructions here on how you can set that up, how you can set up the AWS IAM role, and other relevant information.
Awesome. Well, Cheyenne, I think this was a great overview. I think this is something that is super helpful, a big time saver probably for our customers. I know it is for our own team. But yeah, thank you so much for hopping on. Definitely recommend anyone to check out the documentation online, and let the team know if you have any questions. But thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anna.
All right. Popping back in to close things out, those are some great updates by the team. Thank you to our presenters for showing us the cool things they've been working on. It really makes me excited to think about what's to come next quarter. As a reminder, all of our product updates are on the What's New page on the Tines website. But that's all for now. Have a great day, everyone.